Welcome to the Take a Listing Today podcast. This is part 2 of our exciting interview with Michael LaFido. Be sure to check out our website, takealistingtoday.com, for information on how you can be part of our show. And now let's go on to part number 2. So speaking of sayings, we've got lifestyle branding. You use that, Michael, in your luxury listing specialist certification. Tell us what lifestyle branding is all about.
Yeah, so lifestyle. So, when we market properties, especially high-end and luxury properties, we're not just selling bricks and mortar or stone building and that kind of stuff. You're selling much more than that. So you're selling, the location and the amenities and the schools and the lifestyle that comes with the property. I mean, we've shot some videos and photography out of helicopters and trains, like Ricky Schroeder trains around properties, and I brought in horses and you name it, because you're really trying to tap on those emotional buttons. It's the reason I go car shopping on a Sunday, because I want to look at it, I want to do my due diligence, and then come back when there's a salesman there. But most people buy on emotion and they justify on logic, and you want to hit those emotional buttons so that they raise their hand, they contact their agent, they contact the listing agent, because they want to take that next step. And so painting a picture with the lifestyle photos and videos, you see, I can bring in the best copywriter in the world, somebody that's won all these awards, and they can write the best agent descriptions in the MLS and the websites as possible. But guess what? We're in an Instagram society. They're going to swipe left or swipe right. They don't care what the description is if they don't like what they see in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Right. I love this, by the way. The interview is phenomenal. Your content is going to be very, very helpful for our agents listening. Question. So I'm one of the agents listening to this podcast right now. I'm taking notes. I'm digesting. And I'm going to do what you said. I'm going to go break the ice. So that could take me, let's say, 2 or 3 months. Let's say I have my first luxury property. It sells, right? And I've never dabbled in that. I've never even had the confidence. I've never had the mindset to go there. But from this podcast, so let's say I sell my first one. In your mind, how do I market myself to the others to let them know what I've done, that I can be a resource? Like, how do I turn that into, how do I spin that into, boom, a bunch of referrals potentially, or a bunch more in that neighborhood? Outside of the obvious, just listed, just sold, I want to know what do you teach your people?
Yeah. So, Todd, I would say, I'm going to answer your question, but before we even get that, for those agents that don't have that trophy listing or that high-end luxury listing now, or that buyer, what can you do when you don't have them? So you can work, as I mentioned, other people's open houses that do in your office, and then door knock around them, do some circle prospecting, let them know that you're having an open house. Let them know, hey, have you ever thought about selling? Most people wait till the spring, but if you're thinking about selling in 2020, the fall is a good reason to sell, and here's why. And build rapport. Theodore Roosevelt once said, nobody cares how much you know until they know you care. So getting back to that listing appointment, or that buy owner that's interviewing 3 or 4 people, do your due diligence, build rapport, be likable, okay, and try to do something different than the competition isn't. But getting back to your original question, so yes, I would leverage that sale. I would leverage it with, I know ProspectsPLUS does amazing just listed, just sold postcards. The most powerful word in real estate is sold, right? So if you have that sold, and by the way, if you represent the buyer, you can do just sold postcards around that property as well. Now, I, in full disclosure, always believe you should disclose. We represented the buyer, but turn that into a positive. Hey, we represented the buyer. We might have a buyer for your home, so let us know. Your home might be worth more than you think it is. So, some prospecting and some some just listed, just sold postcards. I would do some door knocking. I would do some, if I represented the buyer, or even if I represented the seller, I might offer to do some kind of housewarming party for the new buyer where they invite the neighbors and that sort of thing. So leverage it. Video is not a fad, Todd. Video is here to stay. So I do a lot of these trainings, 20 to 30 a year, and I can tell you this, in my scientific polling, 10 to 20% of my audiences are consistently producing video. Said differently, 80 to 90% are not.
Wow.
So there's a huge void there. There's an opportunity. So if Jim is a satisfied seller, Don't just have Jim do a nice little review on Zillow or something like that. That's helpful, but plop down and say, hey, Jim, the best way for me to continue helping people like yourself is to get it in a form of video from a satisfied seller. Now, I told you there was going to be turbulence along the way, but you were the ideal client because you were open to our suggestions. So if you're comfortable, I'll do about 80% of the talking, Jim. I'd love to sit down with you, and really I'm going to ask you 2 questions. And I'm going to tell you those questions now, but I want you to answer them from the heart. Number 1, Jim, is, based on your situation, I know you had by owner and you had it listed with one other person before me. Do you recommend somebody goes with the traditional neighborhood expert, a friend or relative? Maybe they do it part-time, or do you recommend they hire someone that's aggressive, that's a marketing agent, that doesn't just list homes, but is continually trying to bring value to the table? So that's number 1 question I'll ask you, Jim. And number 2 is, if you had a close friend or relative that was sick and tired of being sick and tired and their home was on the market and they maybe needed a second opinion, would you recommend our services, and if so, why? So, of course, I wouldn't be offering to sit down with my seller if I didn't know that we had a good rapport and we had a good line of communication, and I kind of knew the answers ahead of time. If I wasn't sure he was really happy,
right.
Worst case scenario, you get it on video and then afterwards you say, man, I didn't realize that. Let us help you. I want to help you fix those voids that we did, and I want to make sure you're satisfied. But, of course, if Jim tells a story, most people are lazy by nature anyways, Todd, and as they're scrolling up their Facebook and they see videos, by default they have it on mute anyways. All they see is you with the seller, and maybe you have a couple bullet points, satisfied seller, and now you get that out there, and you do paid advertisement on Facebook, and we're in a social proof industry. We're in a show and tell industry, and now you get more and more people spreading the word.
Do you also provide advice on how to find buyers for these luxury homes? Because you're dealing with not your typical buyer out there. You're dealing with somebody who must have a lot of cash or a lot of credit or something. Do you deal with that aspect as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about who's your avatar. In other words, you have to be careful with fair housing, what you do and can't say. So those listeners, check with your broker, owner, and your manager on what you can and can't say. But you have to figure out who your avatar is when you're marketing a home, and you want to try to cater to that potential buyer, right? So by highlighting special features or schools or parks or amenities or the man cave in the lower level, or I was selling a house that Wall Street Journal did on staging the garage, and
wow.
And so we brought in cars to showcase the garage, and so these are all things, Jim, that we can do to really highlight and accentuate. That's number 1. The number 2 thing is migration patterns. Do you have certain corporations or sports teams or businesses that are moving to the area, or checking with title companies and closings? Are people are there a bunch of snowbirds coming down to Bradenton that are from the Midwest? And then that's so. The great thing about Facebook is you can create an ad in Bradenton and target Chicago and Milwaukee and St. Louis with that ad to those potential buyers.
I have a fun question for you here, and I know you know these numbers because you do events all over the country. So let's say somebody shows up and goes to one of your events or reads one of your books and decides, you know what, I'm going to jump into the luxury market. What's a success story in terms of Sally agent, before she came to us, was closing 8 transactions a year and was making X amount. And then boom, once she got her feet wet and she got her trophy luxury anyway, she got her confidence. And then this happened. What's the potential if I take a look at this and dive in? I'm the realtor. And if I go this direction, potentially income-wise, from what everybody's doing to what I could, potentially do year after year?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that, Todd. So recently, I have a podcast as well. It's called Luxury Listing Specialist. It's on iTunes and Stitcher, and the website's luxurylistingpodcast.com. But the reason I bring that up is recently I had Kevin Foreman on my podcast. Kevin's with a company called INRIX. INRIX provides real-time data for Waze and different driving apps and that kind of stuff. But Kevin predicted that the national average of listing commission currently, according to real trends is 5.08%.
Wow.
He predicts with some of these discount brokerages and iBuyers and maybe even these proposed lawsuits that are out there that the national average listing commission is going to go down from 5.08 down to 3.64%.
Wow.
Now that's about a 40% decrease. So even if he's off and it goes down, they'll call it 4.5, and commissions go down, 10 to 20%. Some of the things that agents can do is if they increase their average sale price, Todd, by 25 or 30% by adding more high-end and luxury properties, now they've filled that void. They can work smarter, not harder. They can make more money selling less homes, even if commissions go down.
I love it. And that's the objective of us doing our podcast, help agents take a listing today. And it's this has been phenomenal.
Take a luxury listing today. It's my philosophy.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Go out and take a luxury listing today. You have a better
change
happy
the name
hour.
of the show. Yeah,
Right.
Take a luxury listing.
Right?
Why not?
There you go.
That works. Yeah.
Are there any trends specifically in the luxury listing market, Michael, that we should know about or discuss? We're going into 2020, and what should people expect if they want to get into this market? Is it going to continue to be an aggressive niche to be in? What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So the trends are, it's like the pendulum. You might be telling me, hey, Bradenton's a seller's market. It's a seller's market. I would challenge you that at some price point, as you go up in price point, the shift occurs to a neutral market, and then the pendulum shifts to a buyer's market. And most markets have a price point where the shift is definitely a buyer's market, where there's a lot of inventory, it's sitting, stagnant market, and many indicators are 2020 and beyond that upper end market isn't going to get even better anytime soon. So my recommendation would be for agents to go through broker opens, go through some other luxury homes, familiarize themselves with their market and the area and what's trendy and what's not. Smart homes and technology with cameras and security and stuff on your iPad or your smartphone is really trendy right now, and I think it's here to stay. It's not even really a trend, but that's really big. And maybe the McMansion days aren't as popular for a lot of the generation, the millennials and that sort of thing. They'd rather have a couple different properties, and their primary is not this big McMansion anymore. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Okay, so bottom line, it's still a good market to get into, and you would recommend if somebody has that interest, get into it because it's not going anywhere. It's
not going anywhere. Yeah, I mean, I recommend diversify your portfolio. If I was your financial advisor, Jim, and you won the Mega Lotto, I would tell you, diversify: high risk, low risk, long term, short term, liquid. Same thing. Those what those 4 buckets I talked about. Entry level or starter homes, keep doing those if that's what pays the bills. Same with your average, but add more high end and luxury.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest hurdle for somebody to get into the luxury market right now?
I think the biggest hurdle is if they look in the mirror.
Themselves, their mindset, their confidence.
Themselves.
Yep.
Lisa Hayes said it better than I can. She tells, be careful how you talk to yourself, because guess what? You are listening. And so I feel like that's the biggest hurdle, Jim. The other thing that I feel like is a big hurdle is just ultimately the belief that, hey, if they can do it, I can do it. So Roger Bannister was the first person to ever run the mile under 4 minutes. And within 2 years, 37 others ran that same mile under 4 minutes. Just recently, about 45 days ago, someone ran the marathon under 2 hours. I guarantee you, within a few years, there's going to be a handful of others that ran that same marathon under 2 hours, because if he could do it, so can I.
Right. It's so interesting, right? This has been such a fun call because if we look at real estate, right, prospecting, presentation, and close, if we look at your pillars, it really doesn't change. Like you say, show up differently, show up stronger, bring somebody with you. You're going to bring technology. I mean, it's phenomenal because it's the same stuff. You're just going to level your game up, which people should do anyway, correct?
Yep, absolutely. Keep raising the bar.
Well, thank you, Michael. We appreciate you spending time with us today. And I want to go over a few of your programs. And if you want to interject anything, please feel free. And this is going to help our viewers and our listeners to break into this market. If you've been kind of on the fence, this is how you can do it. First of all, Michael has a luxury blueprint video series on how to break into and sell more high-end and luxury homes. And you can find that at luxurylistingblueprint.com. So
that's some good free information out there.
We also have your certification, the Luxury Listing Specialist certification, and our viewers can get more information on that at luxurylistingspecialist.com, correct?
Yeah, and we just launched a new website. We're really excited about that, Jim, but absolutely. And 70% of agents that have our certification do so online. They get a username and password. I call it Lux University. There's over 10 and a half hours of video content and trainings, 16 modules, self-paced, and a lot of great resources there. So that's the certification.
Okay, wonderful. And as we mentioned earlier on our show here, you have your own podcast as well, the Luxury Listing Specialist podcast.
Yeah, we just released, I think, our 67th or 68th episodes. They're about a half hour long, and great content on there.
Wonderful.
Phenomenal. I think this was a great interview. Thank you for taking some time out, carving out of your day, because this will help a lot of people that are going to listen to this conversation. It really is going to give them some tools to help finish this year strong and also dominate 2020.
All right. Lisa, you have something to add.
I was just going to say thank you, Michael, as well, from Lisa over here that you can't see, but they will add me later. I love your post. By the way, I love your poster in the background, the Prove Them Wrong, and I've seen that tagline everywhere. It's awesome. Love it. We're gonna add all your information to our show notes so everybody will know where to click and get over to your site. So I just want to make people aware. If you're driving your car, don't try and write it down. We'll have it in the show notes.
Yes, don't get in a wreck on your way to that luxury listing presentation. So that would be bad.
No, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you once again, Michael, for joining us today.
You've been awesome. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Todd.
All right. Well, if you'd like to be a part of our next audience for our next taping of our Take a Listing Today podcast, be sure to go to our website, takealistingtoday.com, to view the dates of our next tapings. And to sign up, you can ask questions of the experts, maybe even win a prize. It's happened before, right?
Prizes are good. We have them here, $25 gift cards, giving away free books every single week.
What a deal. And of course, our podcast, in order for us to afford that, is sponsored by ProspectsPLUS.com. They offer everything you could ever want for marketing, so check them out today. Thanks for being with us.
Stay strong.